Chapter 1 Leaving the Village. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Night falls. On a summer night, the starry sky is bright and the moon hangs high. The moonlight shines down on the trees, like coating the leaves with a layer of silver. When it shines on the ground, it seems to have coated the earth with a layer of silver. In the green fields, you can still hear cicadas, frogs, and insects from time to time. There is a small village at the foot of Hulu Mountain. The village is not big, with more than 100 households. The farmers all fell asleep early after finishing their busy day. In the village at this time, there was still a hut with lights on. There was no valuable furniture in the house, and the few pieces of furniture were all shabby. There was a middle-aged woman sitting on the wooden bed in the room. The woman was folding clothes and talking to the little boy beside her. The little boy looks about 8 or 9 years old. His face is a little dark and his body is thin. However, his black and white eyes are very smart. He looks very smart at first glance. He is pretty good-looking and wears a gray coat. Shabby clothes. There was a middle-aged man sitting next to the boy, who must be the boy's father. The middle-aged man had a beard and a simple appearance. He was also talking to the little boy. There was a little girl sleeping on the wooden bed. She was sleeping soundly and the sound of talking could not wake her up. She looked like she was 4 or 5 years old, but the girl was much fairer. Her long eyelashes looked very cute. You can also see some saliva flowing out. Xiaofan, your eldest brother will be back tomorrow. This time your eldest brother will come back to take you to the city. You must learn your skills well. Your eldest brother asked someone to find you this job. The middle-aged woman wiped her fingers. He said with tears in his eyes. The middle-aged man next to him also raised his head at this time, looked at the little boy with loving eyes and said, "If you encounter any trouble outside, just go to your elder brother. Your parents are not with you, so you can only rely on your elder brother to take care of you." After the big man finished speaking, he lowered his head again and sighed. "I know Dad and Mom." The little boy's expression was also a little depressed. It was obvious that he was reluctant to leave home and his parents. The little boy's name is Wu Fan, and everyone in the village calls him Xiaofan. Xiaofan has been smart since he was a child, and is also very popular with the villagers. This village is not big, and most of the people in the village have the surname Wu, so it is also called Wujia village. Most of the people in the village make a living by farming. There is a big city more than 500 miles away from Wujiakan, called Qingshan City. Qingshan City is very large and prosperous. Powerful people live there. People in the village also envy those who can live in the city. If a family has someone who can go to the city to work, that family will feel particularly proud. Wu Fan's eldest brother is named Wu Hao. Wu Hao works in a large blacksmith shop in the city. This time Wu Fan was able to go to the city because his eldest brother asked the boss for help. His parents were very happy when they heard the news. Both sons in the family were very happy. It's a great thing to be able to work in the city, but Wu's father and Wu's mother looked at Wu Fan, who was only 8 years old. They really couldn't bear to let their children leave them, but they had no choice but to make Wu Fan successful in the future. In order to live a good life, I can only endure the reluctance and let my son leave this small village. Normally, he should start reading and literacy at the age of 8, but there is not even a teacher in the village. Wu Fan lay sideways on the bed and looked at his sister. He didn't know when he would come back next time. Wu Fan usually loved his sister very much. His sister's name was Wu Xiaoyu. She was 5 years old this year. She heard that her brother was going to the city. "In the past few days, I have been crying and refusing to let my brother go." Wu Fan was both excited and sad about this departure in his young heart. After all, he was only an 8-year-old child. He had never been away from his parents since he was a child. It was unavoidable to feel sad and reluctant, but he longs for life in the big city. Wu Fan stared at his sister without blinking. After a while, he gradually fell asleep. The next day, Wu Fan arrived at the entrance of the village early to wait for his eldest brother. Near noon, he saw a carriage driving slowly in the distance. Sitting in the carriage was a sturdy young man who looked to be 17 or 18 years old. The man was unusually tall, also had dark skin, and was wearing a black gown. He was looking at Wu Fan with a smile on his face. Wu Fan took a closer look and saw that he was really the eldest brother. He raised his legs and ran towards the carriage, shouting at the same time. Brother Wu Hao waved vigorously to his younger brother. Soon, Wu Fan ran to the carriage. Wu Hao jumped out of the car, reached out and touched his younger brother's little head and said with a smile. Xiao Fan, you've grown a lot in the past 2 years, haven't you? That Wu Fan looked up at his elder brother's dark face and said. Brother, you are finally back. I have been waiting for you to take me to the city. I heard that the city is very beautiful. Is this true? That Wu Hao laughed loudly and said, Of course, the clothes worn by people in the city are all made of silk and satin, and the houses they live in are all pavilions and pavilions. You will know when you get to Qingshan city. After hearing this, Wu Fan's eyes showed a look of longing. He was even a little impatient now. He wanted to go and see the bustling city and the tall pavilions right away. While he was stunned, Wu Hao had already picked him up. Casually threw him into the car again, and said with a smile. Don't think about it. You will follow me into the city in a few days, and you will be able to see it then. After that, the two brothers laughed and drove home. A quarter of an hour later, at Wu Fan's house, Wu's mother looked at Wu Hao carefully for a while and then said with a smile. We haven't seen him in 2 years, and my son has grown a lot taller. He is as tall as your father. The middle-aged man on the side laughed loudly after hearing this and said. This shows that our son is now an adult. 5-year-old Wu Xiaoyu hid behind Wu's mother and did not dare to come out. She knew this was her eldest brother, but she was a little unfamiliar with this strong boy. The last time she saw her eldest brother, she was only 3 years old. Mother Wu held Wu Hao's palm as big as a leaf fan and said. How is your son doing in the city? How is your craft learning going? Don't worry, mother, everything is fine with the child. Now he has left the army and started to forge weapons formally. Now I can get paid every month. Wu Hao said with a proud look in his eyes and took out the weapon from his arms. A few taels of silver were handed to Wu's mother. After Wu's mother resisted for a while, she saw that her son insisted on giving it, so she kept the money. Wu's father always had a happy smile on his face. He knew that the son he had raised for so many years could finally lighten a lot of burdens on the family. On this day, Wu Fan's home was filled with joy and laughter of reunion. No one knew when the next family reunion would be. 3 days later in the morning, many people came to the village to see him off, and several of Wu Fan's childhood playmates were reluctant to say goodbye to Wu Fan. Wu Hao held the horse and turned back to his parents and said. Mom and Dad, please go back. Don't send me away. I will take good care of Xiaofan. Don't worry, you too. Wu Fan's eyes were red and he also said to his parents, Mom and Dad, go back. I will go home to see you when I have time. Mother Wu looked at the carriage gradually going away, with tears in her eyes. Wu's father turned his head and glanced at Wu's mother and said, Child, let's go back. The children are old. It's a good thing to get out of this small village. After saying that, he turned around and walked back with a sigh. Wu Fan was sitting on the carriage, looking at his father, mother and sister who were gradually going away, as well as many villagers waving goodbye to him. At this moment, tears in his eyes could not be controlled and burst out. Wu Fan could never have imagined that this departure would bring about earth-shaking changes for him, and he would then embark on a path of cultivating immortality. Chapter 2 Qingshan City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Kingdom of Daxia is divided into 9 states, and each state has many large cities. Qingshan City is located in Qingzhou, and it is also considered a large city in Qingzhou. In a small inn in a small town 3 days away from Qingshan City, Wu Fan and his brother were eating dry food. Wu Fan was eating dry food while listening to what his brother was saying. Wu Hao also looked serious, explaining things to his brother. Xiao Fan, this time I am taking you to the city to work as an apprentice in a drugstore. My boss and the owner of this drug store are good friends, and it was my boss who helped you find the job. You must cherish this opportunity and study hard. Wu Hao looked at his younger brother and said with a smile. Wu Fan knew that this opportunity was hard-won, so he naturally nodded to his brother. Wu Hao added, although the city is prosperous and we will earn a lot of money in the future, ordinary people like us have no status at all in the city. Those businessmen and powerful people do not regard us as human beings at all. You must always remember in the future, never offend these people, they can kill us with just a finger, and no one will dare to reason with them for us, and their death will be in vain. When Wu Fan heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little worried, and his face turned ugly. Wu Hao continued, there are many large and small gangs inside and outside Qingshan city, and there are even some robbers and robbers. Xiao Fan, you must remember that when you meet these people in the future, hide as far away as you can. They all have martial arts skills. Treat human life as nothing, even officers and soldiers dare not breathe when they see them. Wu Fan knew that his elder brother was teaching him how to survive in the city, so he silently wrote down everything he said. Wu Fan has heard from the village elders since he was a child that those who know martial arts can fly over walls and fly over walls. Warriors with profound internal strength are even more powerful. They can invisibly damage the enemy with just a slap of the palm. That's really a dozen ordinary people. A master who can't even get into the body. Wu Fan has been envious of those warriors since he was a child, and usually dreams that one day he can become like them. Seeing the fearful expression on his brother's face, Wu Hao knew that what he said had frightened his brother. Then he said, Xiao Fan, you don't have to worry. As long as you don't run around and just stay in the drugstore, you will be very safe. In fact, you don't know that the drugstore you went to is also run by a gang. That gang, it's called the Medicine Gang. It's very powerful in the Qingshan city area. It's also a top-notch gang in several nearby cities. They are mainly engaged in the medicinal herb business, so you don't have to worry about safety issues in the medicine shop. After hearing this, Wu Fan's frightened little face finally softened, and then he smiled again. He probably understood that the drugstore he was in was backed by gangs. 3 days later at noon, a carriage drove slowly on the road outside Qingshan city. Wu Fan looked at the tall city wall and the 10-meter-high city gate. He was really shocked and excited. He had never seen it before. With such a high city gate and such a magnificent city wall, when I walked to the city gate, I saw more than a dozen officers and soldiers in armor at the city gate. They were checking every passing vehicle and pedestrian, and only a few of them had finished checking. Released. Passing through the city gate, walking on the road paved with bluestone, looking at the pavilions on the street, the bustling people on the street, and the cries of business, looking at the dripping things, I really feel that it is huge. With his eyes opened, Wu Hao couldn't help laughing when he saw his brother's big eyes looking left and right. Wu Fan was immediately embarrassed and his face turned red. Wu Hao took his younger brother to his blacksmith shop first. After returning the carriage to the shop, he told Wu Fan to remember the location of his shop. Then he ate a bowl of noodles on the street. After the meal, Wu Hao pulled his younger brother towards him. Walking towards the east, after walking for about half an hour, a 3-story pavilion appeared in front of me. On the big plaque were 3 golden characters Huichun Hall. There was also an endless stream of people coming and going. When they walked into the shop, I saw a dozen boys busy working. Among them, a young boy who was 15 or 16 years old came over and said, "Brother Wu Hao is here. Are you looking for the shopkeeper?" That Wu Hao smiled at him and said quickly, "I'm sorry, little brother." "Brother Wu Hao, wait a moment. I'll go in and find the shopkeeper right away." After saying that, the boy turned around and walked towards the back room. After a while, an old man about 60 years old came out. The old man was a little fat, with small eyes and gray hair. He was wearing a blue shirt and seemed to be born with a smiling face. When Wu Hao saw the old man, he cheered up and hurriedly pulled Wu Fan over. When he arrived in front of the old man, he quickly clasped his hands and bowed and said, "I have met Mr. Liu." The old man smiled and nodded, then turned his head and looked at Wu Fan carefully. Said, "Wu Hao, is this the younger brother you are talking about?" He is indeed a good little guy. Wu Hao replied with a smile on his face, Mr. Lu is too praised. My younger brother is still young. I'm afraid he will cause trouble to Mr. Lu in the future. The old man laughed and said, your boss came here to ask me for help. I can't disgrace him, can I? Haha, don't worry, just leave your brother to me. I like this little guy very much. When Wu Hao heard this, he breathed out slowly in his heart, and then quickly shouted to Wu Fan, Xiao Fan, why don't you come over and see Mr. Lu? When Wu Fan heard this, he immediately walked up to the old man obediently, then bowed deeply to the old man and said, Wu Fan has met Mr. Lu. After he finished speaking, he looked up and secretly glanced at the old man, with a somewhat unnatural expression on his face. When the old man saw Wu Fan's embarrassed little face, the smile on his face deepened, and then he smiled and said, get up, you can follow me from now on, learn from me, and one day you will become famous in the future. Wu Fan quickly bent down again and said, thank you, Mr. Lu, I will study hard. The old man said and said, you can teach me. Then the old man turned back to look at Wu Hao and said, you should go back too. I will take Xiaofan to his residence right now. You can come over to see your brother when you have time. You must be very tired from traveling these days. Wu Hao bowed to Mr. Lu again and then stood up and said, sorry to trouble Mr. Lu. After speaking, he glanced at his younger brother and said, brother is gone. You must listen to Mr. Lu here. Mr. Lu is a very famous doctor in Qingshan city. You must learn your skills from Mr. Lu. Wu Fan looked at his eldest brother and nodded, I understand, eldest brother, you must visit me often when you have time. Wu Hao fondly touched his little brother's little head, and then said, I will do it. After that, he turned around and left. Chapter 3 Song Fei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Wu Hao left, Wu Fan seemed even more embarrassed. He was only 8 years old. Facing this strange environment and strange people alone, he couldn't help but feel a little scared. Mr. Lu seemed to see that Wu Fan he was so scared that he came over, took Wu Fan's little hand, with a kind look on his face, and said with a smile, Xiao Fan, come with me, I will take you to find a place to stay. Wu Fan nodded obediently, and then followed the old man out. There was a back door going in from the medicine shop. When you walked out of the back door, you could see a large courtyard with flowers, plants and trees, and even a stream flowing through the courtyard. You can still see some fish from time to time, and across the end of the large yard, you can see rows of houses, with several multi-story attics interspersed among them. The old man looked at the attics in front and said, Xiao Fan, some of the attics over there are warehouses, bookshelves, and some places for processing medicinal herbs. The smaller house here is where we live. After the old man finished speaking, he took Wu Fan to the row of huts and chose a house. Xiao Fan, you can live in this room from now on, the old man said, pointing to the room in front of him. Wu Fan quickly nodded to the old man. Wu Fan looked at the house where he would live for a long time, and the unhappiness he felt after his eldest brother left was completely gone. He had never lived in such a beautiful house, a red house, a gray roof, and there were still trees outside. There was a small yard, which was much better than his thatched house. Seeing everything here made him feel very happy. Following Mr. Lu into the door, the first thing he saw was a red round table with some patterns carved on it. It looked very elegant at first glance. There were several stools placed around the table, and there were 2 rows of red sandalwood on the left and right sides. The wardrobe made of wood looks like a big bed when you look inside, and the floor is also paved with bluestone. Xiao Fan, when you go out and walk more than 100 steps to the right, there is a place to eat. If you are hungry, go there to eat. You may be tired today, so just pack up and have a good rest. After the old man finished speaking, he glanced at Wu Fan again. Then he turned around and walked out. Wu Fan quickly escorted the old man out of the door, bent down and said respectfully, Thank you, Mr. Lu, please go slowly. The old man stopped and touched Wu Fan's little head, smiled and then turned around and left. After Wu Fan entered the room, he looked at this and touched that. He felt that everything was strange and beautiful. He walked to the bed, took off his shoes, and jumped onto the bed with a big jump. The bed was very soft. Very comfortable. He looked up at the roof, thinking about the scene when his parents sent him away, thinking about the smiling face of his little sister when she circled around him every day, thinking about everyone in the village. Unknowingly, Wu Fan and fell asleep. The next morning, Wu Fan got up early. After washing up, he walked to the dining hall. The food here was very rich, including porridge, steamed buns, and side dishes. When he was at home, he could not eat white flour steamed buns several times a year. I didn't expect that steamed buns were just ordinary food here. Wu Fan was full of expectations for his future life. After eating, Wu Fan returned to his residence and waited for Mr. Lu. An hour later, Mr. Lu walked in with a slow pace, holding a new set of clothes in his hand. He looked at Wu Fan and smiled and said, "Xiao Fan, these are the new clothes I prepared for you. I don't know if they will fit you. You try it on first." "Thank you, Mr. Lu." Wu Fan hurriedly took the clothes and put them on quickly. The clothes fit him very well. He looked at the blue gown. It was very beautiful. The previous clothes were all mended, but this time he finally had new clothes. Wu Fan also had a smile on his face. In fact, at the end of the day, Wu Fan is just an 8-year-old child. For him, having good food, good housing, and good clothing is the happiest thing. Seeing that Wu Fan's clothes fit him perfectly, Mr. Lu nodded with a smile. "Xiao Fan, I will bring you to meet a friend later, and he will study with me in the future." The old man looked at Wu Fan and said with a smile. When Wu Fan heard this, he was immediately stunned, and then became very excited. "It turned out that there was a child studying with me. This is great. I don't have to study alone in the future." He couldn't help but become a little curious about the friends he was about to meet, and he was also very excited at the same time. "I know, Mr. Lu." Wu Fan replied happily and excitedly. Mr. Lu took Wu Fan out. After walking for 5 or 6 minutes, the two of them stopped next to a house. Then they saw the old man shouting into the house, "Song Fei, come out soon. I'll introduce you to a little girl. Partner. Come here." That I heard a boy's voice coming from the room immediately. From the childish voice, I knew that the boy was not very old. Immediately afterwards, I saw a boy walking out of the house. He could be about 7 or 8 years old. He was about the same age as Wu Fan. He was also wearing a blue gown. He was stronger than Wu Fan, had short hair, and his face was much fairer than Wu Fan. He smiled. It also has 2 dimples, which is very cute. The little boy stared at Wu Fan without blinking, looking left and right, with some curiosity in his eyes. Mr. Lu smiled beside him and said, "Song Fei, this is Xiao Fan. You are the same age. Xiao Fan is 2 months older than you. You two children must get along well in the future." Song Fei said then winked at Wu Fan and said playfully, "Hello, brother Xiao Fan, my name is Song Fei." "Hello Xiao Fei." Wu Fan also stared at Song Fei's cute little face non-stop, with a smile in his eyes. The old man looked at them, nodded with a smile, and then said, "Okay, you can follow me to the bookstore now. From today on, I will teach you how to read and read. After a while, I will teach you how to identify herbs and learn how to read. Pharmacology, remember to study hard." The 2 little boys nodded obediently at the same time. The old man took the 2 of them to an attic. Wu Fan knew that this attic was the bookstore that Mr. Lu mentioned. The bookstore was very large and very high, with 3 floors. The old man walked into the first floor and sat on a stool. Pointing to the surrounding bookshelves and said, "The books on the first floor are all basic knowledge. You must start from the basics in the future. From today on, you will come here to wait for me after dinner every morning. Do you hear me?" The 2 little boys started looking left and right after entering the first floor. The bookshelves were full of books. The number of books could be described as densely packed. It was hard to tell how many books there were at the moment. There were many books in the open space in the middle of the bookshelves. There was a big round table. The old man was sitting on a stool next to the round table. When he heard the old man asking, the two boys bent down and clasped their fists at the same time and respectfully replied, "I heard you, Mr. Lu." The old man said and nodded with a smile. "Today I will teach you how to read. Come to me." The old man took out a book and said at the same time, in this way, Wu Fan and Song Fei entered into a long period of study. Chapter 4, Fire Burning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time flies so fast, for years have passed in the blink of an eye. The two little guys are both 12 years old, and both are about 1.5 meters tall. During the past 4 years, Wu Fan and Song Fei have become good friends who talk about everything. They play together every day, and the four of them in the middle of the year, the two of them studied very hard, and Mr. Lu also taught them with all his heart without reservation. In the early morning of this day, Wu Fan was sleeping when he heard Song Fei's shout outside, Brother Xiao Fan, get up quickly. Let's go eat quickly. Don't forget that today the master will take us to the Tibetan scripture pavilion to select its a martial arts mentality. As soon as Wu Fan heard this, he sat up from the bed with a somersault and started to put on his clothes quickly. At the same time, he shouted, "I know Xiao Fei, I'll be out right away." Wu Fan was very excited. It should be said that he was very excited. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Just 3 years ago, the old man discovered that the two children were very smart and learned things quickly. Although Song Fei was playful, he was still good at learning. Taking care of his heart, Wu Fan was even more liked by the old man. Not only was he smart, but he could also learn things as soon as he was taught. The old man became interested in talents and decided to accept them as close disciples. Just yesterday, the old man said to them, "You are 12 years old this year. It is time to learn martial arts. Although we are a medicine shop, martial arts must be learned because we will often go into the mountains to collect herbs in the future, and sometimes you may encounter wild beasts or even robbers, so learning martial arts will give you some protection for your life." When Wu Fan heard this, he immediately jumped up and down. He was so excited that he couldn't fall asleep for a long time last night. Wu Fan has been envious of those masters who know martial arts since he was a child. He has always hoped that he would become such a person one day and also fantasized about it. One day he will be able to fly over walls, and others will nod and bow down when they see him. How impressive he will be. "Brother Xiaofan, are you okay? Hurry up." Song Fei's anxious shouts came from outside. Coming. After Wu Fan hurriedly put on his clothes, he washed up as quickly as possible, and then ran out. The two little boys looked at each other, then laughed and went to eat, arm in arm. When they came out, the two little guys were really happy. An hour later, in front of the gate of the Sutra Pavilion, Mr. Lu turned back to the two of them and said, "You two, remember, each person can only choose one inner skill and mental method. I will explain to you the pros and cons of each internal skill and mental method. Each person can choose 2 martial arts secret books, remember." Wu Fan and Song Fei nodded in agreement at the same time. The three of them entered the Sutra Pavilion and saw an old man walking over. The old man was tall and looked to be in his 50s. He had thick eyebrows and wide eyes, and his temples were slightly bulging. At first glance, he was a master who had practiced internal energy to a certain level. Wu Fan knew that this old man was the person guarding the pavilion. After he saw the old man approaching the three of them, he clasped his fists at Mr. Lu and said, "Mr. Lu, you are here." Mr. Lu smiled and replied, "Brother Zhang, I'm sorry to trouble you this time. I brought 2 apprentices here to choose some martial arts books." The old man with thick eyebrows said quickly, "It's easy to talk, please come in, Mr. Lu. Wu Fan, Song Fei, you two go and choose. The bookshelf on the left is the internal skills and mental methods, and the right is the martial arts secrets." Mr. Lu turned back and said to the two of them. Wu Fan and Song Fei immediately replied with clasped fists, "Yes," and then they couldn't wait to choose their own skills. Wu Fan walked to the bookshelf on the left. There were not many books on the bookshelf, only a dozen or so. This is not difficult to understand. Wu Fan knew how cherished the exercises were. Ordinary people would not be able to access a single exercise in their lifetime. You can see more than a dozen books here at once, which is not easy. You can see so many exercises in just a drugstore affiliated to a gang. This also shows how big the foundation of the drug gang is. Wu Fan casually took down a book and saw Jiamu Guizhen Ju written on it. He opened it and looked at it for a while. It was a body-protecting technique similar to a golden bell. According to the book, when this skill is practiced to its full potential, the body-protecting qi will form an armor-like phantom outside the body, making it difficult to be harmed by swords. It is really powerful. Wu Fan returned the book to the bookshelf and took out another one, which read Dragon and Tiger Divine Power Kung Fu. According to this Kung Fu, when you practice to a great extent, your physical body can have the power of a dragon and tiger, and your power can be infinitely variable. Wu Fan was somewhat interested in this book of exercises. After thinking about it, he put the book back and prepared to read something else before talking about it. He took out the third book, which said Hunyuan Thunderbolt Kung Fu. After practicing this technique to a great extent, the true energy can be released, and even a big tree can be chopped with one palm. It is really powerful. Wu Fan read the remaining books again, including the Jade Girl's Harmony Skill, the Powerful Diamond Skill, Purple Sun Skill, Pure Yang Sutra, the True Blood Transformation Sutra. Wu Fan read all the books. He thought these exercises were very powerful. He didn't know which one to choose for a while. At this time, he glanced at the top shelf of the bookshelf and found that a book was placed at the very back, and only a corner of the book was exposed. If you didn't look carefully, you would have missed the book. Wu Fan was a little puzzled as to why he put this book in such an inconspicuous place and on a separate floor. While thinking about it, Wu Fan had already lifted up his toes and took the book down. It was made of some kind of animal skin. It was very strong and thick. It was obviously different from those paper books. There are 3 big characters written on it, Fire Burning Jew. When I opened the book, I found that this method was different from other methods. The route of the internal energy was very different. It didn't say what this method would bring me after practicing it. I only knew that this book had 12 levels. The practitioner also had to look at the physique. Some people could practice it, but some couldn't. Wu Fan thought this book was very strange and was about to put it back on the bookshelf. At this time, old Lu came over. He glanced at the book in Wu Fan's hand and said, "This method has been stored here for decades. It is said that this method was found when the gang copied the sutra pavilion of an enemy. At that time, the enemy's person who was in charge of the sutra pavilion said that this method was passed down from generation to generation in their family and was also the most important method in their family. It is said that this method is not something that everyone can practice. It depends on fate." Wu Fan listened to old Lu's words. This was the same as what he saw in the book. The book also said that this method depends on the physique. Not everyone can practice it. They are all methods, so why do they have to be divided by physique? Old Lu continued, "It is said that several hundred years ago, an ancestor of their family practiced this technique and eventually reached the pinnacle of martial arts. At that time, the best masters in the entire Qingzhou could not get past this person's 3 moves." Chapter 5 Qingfeng Sword Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Wu Fan heard this, he was a little stunned and thought to himself that this is too powerful. If I can succeed in cultivation, wouldn't I be able to go anywhere in the world? After seeing the expression on Wu Fan's face, Mr. Lu knew what he was thinking, and then continued, "At that time, the gang members also thought they had found a treasure this time, so they quickly sent the exercises back to the gang leader at the time. Then gang leader Ren also laughed heartily when he heard about it. Later, he practiced the exercises painstakingly for more than 10 years, but in the end he failed and wasted 10 years. The gang leader had no choice but to put this book of exercises in the Sutra Pavilion for worship. At that time, many members of the gang also chose to practice this technique without believing in evil. In the end, no one succeeded. This time, everyone knew that what the guard said was indeed the truth. In the end, this technique did not work for some reason. Put it in our drugstore. When Wu Fan heard this, he lowered his head and looked at the book in his hand. His expression was a little uncertain. He hesitated for a long time. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said in his heart, "Master, I have decided to practice this technique." Mr. Lu shook his head helplessly, and then said, "Xiaofan, are you sure? People in the past had the same idea as you, thinking that they would succeed, but in the end it was just a waste of time." Wu Fan couldn't help but tighten his hand holding the book. Then he suddenly raised his head, looked at Mr. Lu with firm eyes and said, "Master, I'm sure, I want to give it a try." "Well, now that you have decided, I won't advise you anymore. Just wait until one day you can't hold on anymore and tell me that I will bring you over to choose a new method." Mr. Lu knows his love now that the disciple has made up his mind, there is no need to persuade him. At this time, Song Fei came over, saluted Mr. Lu and said, "Master, I have selected 2 martial arts secret books, and now I have to choose the internal skills and mental methods." Mr. Lu looked at the 2 books that Song Fei was holding and asked, "Which martial arts secret book did you choose?" "It's Volley Step and Thunder Palm. I think 1 body technique, 1 palm technique, 1 retreat and 1 attack are very suitable," Seinfeld replied. After hearing this, Mr. Lu nodded with satisfaction and said, "Yes, you have chosen these 2 martial arts secret books well. You must practice seriously in the future and don't neglect it." Song Fei immediately replied, "Yes, I understand." Wu Fan on the side winked at Song Fei and said, "Congratulations, Xiao Fei. Brother Xiaofan, have you finished selecting your internal skills and mental methods?" Song Fei asked. "I've finished choosing. Now I'm going to choose the martial arts secret books." Wu Fan said and walked towards the martial arts secret books shelf. There are obviously many more books here than internal skills and mental methods. There are more than 20 books. This is not surprising. Everyone knows that martial arts moves are easy to find, but internal skills and mental methods are hard to find. Even if you practice martial arts moves well, you will still have no internal strength. The support is just a flower shelf and poses no threat to humans at all. If a person only practices martial arts moves and does not practice internal skills and mental methods, no matter how perfect he is in practicing the moves, if he meets someone with strong internal skills, the opponent only needs to push out the palm wind of the internal energy to release a lot of energy from you. Less air intake. Therefore, the internal strength and mental methods must be chosen well. From now on, you will need to practice breathing most of the time every day. In the final analysis, internal strength is the foundation of a martial artist. Just choose a few martial arts moves that suit you and practice them diligently. Wu Fan reached out and took out a martial arts secret book and looked at it. It said Walking on the Snow Without Trace Steps. It was obvious that this was a light kung fu movement book. The book said that after practicing this footwork to a great extent, you can reaching the state of leaving no trace on the snow. It is very suitable for those who follow others, or do some stealing, because in the later stages of practicing this Qingfeng, no matter whether they are walking, climbing over walls, or running, it will be silent. Silently, Wu Fan was not very interested in this Qinggong. Wu Fan took out another book and started reading it. This was a martial arts book called Iron Sand Palm. The book mentioned that after practicing this martial arts to a high level and using internal strength, one can even pick up a bare blade with bare hands, even without using internal strength. It can easily smash a small tree with one palm, but practicing this iron sand palm is very difficult. It requires continuous tapping with hands on the hot sand every day, and it takes many years of continuous tapping to master it. The 3rd book is called The Mad Dragon Retreats, which is a book on kicking martial arts. The 4th book called Fire Mountain Fist is also quite powerful. In this way, Wu Fan looked at them one by one, including Zhanyue's sword technique, Tiger Tooth Divine Fist, Drunken Immortal sword technique, Lingxiao axe technique, 18 styles of spear technique, Sunset Finger, Liaoyi footwork. After Wu Fan read them all, he took out 2 martial arts secret books, one called Qingfeng sword technique. It is said that this sword technique used to be a special skill of a top master, but it requires perseverance to practice. And you must be good at Qinggong. Only with good Qinggong can you bring out the power of this swordsmanship. When fighting the enemy, the opponent will find that he can't tell where you will draw your sword from next time. It can also make the opponent unable to figure out your position. Following the timing of drawing the sword, this is a very elegant swordsmanship. The second secret book is a Qinggong movement book called Fian Step. Wu Fan chose this Qinggong book because this book Fian Step complements the Qingfeng sword technique. This book Fian Step complements each other. When you practice Yanbu to a high level, you can float 3 to 4 feet away in one step, and when in battle, your movement will be particularly smooth. Even if you can't defeat someone, you will be much faster than others when escaping. Therefore, Wu Fan finally, I chose this Qinggong Shenfa book. After Wu Fan finished choosing, he turned around and walked towards Mr. Lu. At this time, Song Fei also finished choosing the internal skills and mental methods and walked towards this side. When old Lu saw the two approaching, he said, "Have you all made your choices?" Song Fei replied with a smile, "I have chosen my master, and the inner strength I chose is Dragon and Tiger Divine Power." Old Lu glanced at Song Fei and said with a smile, "Yes. This inner strength can make people extremely powerful when practiced to perfection. You have been strong since childhood, and this skill is very suitable for you." After saying this, old Lu looked at Wu Fan again and said, "Xiao Fan, what about you?" Wu Fan replied with a happy face, "Master, I chose Qingfeng sword technique and flying swallow step." When the old man heard this, he laughed and said, "Yes, yes, these two secret books are well chosen." Old Lu used 2 yes in a row to explain his happiness, which also proved that Wu Fan had indeed made the right choice. "Okay, since you have all made your choices, let's go back now. Remember to practice hard in the future. If you don't understand, you can ask me at any time. Let's go." After saying this, old Lu turned around and walked out. Wu and Song followed closely behind. Chapter 7, Discussion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In this way, Wu Fan practiced Qingfeng sword technique and Faiyanbu every morning, went to learn medicine and read books with his master in the afternoon, and came back to practice Huifenju at night. Time flew quickly, and 3 months passed in a flash. That night, Wu Fan threw the book Huifenju on the bed in a rage, and lay on his back on the bed looking at the roof, his face livid, and he didn't know what he was thinking. 3 months have passed, and his swordsmanship and light skills have made great progress, but he is still at a loss for Huifenju, and he hasn't cultivated any internal strength. Wu Fan's previous persistence has been shaken, and he thought to himself, "Am I also like others, and have no chance with this skill?" Song Fei's first level of Dragon and Tiger Divine Power skill has almost been successfully cultivated. Now Song Fei can easily lift a 50-gene stone pier with one hand, and Wu Fan is really envious. Wu Fan lay on the soft and comfortable bed, thinking for a long time, and finally decided to practice for another month. If he still couldn't cultivate internal strength, he could only ask the master to choose a new internal strength method. He would not be stupid enough to practice for several years for a method that could not be practiced. He wanted to practice this method before because it was really powerful. He wanted to practice it with a try-and-see attitude. If he could practice it, it would be the best. If he really couldn't practice it, he would give up decisively and would not let this method delay his precious time. Go to bed early tonight, get up early tomorrow to practice and try. I have been practicing at night for the past few months. I don't know what it will be like to practice in the early morning, Wu Fan murmured in a low voice. The next morning, before dawn, Wu Fan had already gotten up and started practicing. He was immersed in practice. When the first ray of sunlight appeared, there were some colorful light spots in the air that were invisible to the naked eye of mortals, slowly flying towards Wu Fan's body and drilling into Wu Fan's body little by little. The light spots are divided into many colors, including red, black, green, gold, and yellow, but there are many more red light spots than other colors. Wu Fan didn't feel anything about these things at all, and he still closed his eyes and practiced attentively. It was not until near noon that Wu Fan woke up slowly. When Wu Fan woke up, he felt relaxed all over and clear-headed. He practiced for 6 or 7 hours, but he didn't feel tired at all, and he felt that his strength seemed to be a little stronger than before. After more than 3 months, Wu Fan finally showed a smile at the corner of his mouth. Hard work pays off, and he finally succeeded, which proves that Wu Fan can practice this method. In fact, Wu Fan didn't know that the method he practiced was very different from others. Others practiced internal skills from the body to cultivate internal strength, while he relied on absorbing external spiritual energy and finally refined spiritual power in the body. This is a world of difference. Wu Fan didn't know that what he practiced was not an internal skill. This fire-burning Jew was actually a method of cultivating immortals. In this way, Wu Fan knew that he could practice this method, so in the days to come, he practiced harder and harder. Time flies. 4 years have passed in a flash. Wu Fan has spent another 4 years in cultivation. He is now 16 years old. During these 4 years, Wu Fan has cultivated very hard. He has cultivated the fire-burning art to the peak of the 2nd level, and is only 1 step away from entering the 3rd level. Even the Qingfeng sword technique and flying swallow step martial arts have been cultivated to a small success. In the evening of this day, there were 2 figures flying and jumping in the yard, turning and moving, fighting fiercely, back and forth, and only heard a young man shouting, "Brother Xiaofan, watch my palm," and then another young man's voice came. From the opposite side, "Xiao Fei, let the horse come over." That I saw a man who was sturdy and strong, about 1.8 meters tall, wearing a green long gown, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, and a pair of dimples could be seen when the corners of his mouth moved. Opposite the burly young man was a young man who was slightly shorter than him. This young man looked much more quiet. He stood there like a scholar, with fair skin, bright eyes, thin lips, a smile on the corner of his mouth, long hair tied with a belt, holding a silver shining long sword in his hand, wearing a green long gown, and looked handsome. I heard the burly young man on the opposite side shouting, "Brother Xiaofan, I'm going to be serious, take it," and saw him slash with a palm. The palm wind was fierce, and went straight to the head of the opposite young man. The opposite young man smiled slightly, dodged the palm easily with a flash, raised the long sword in his hand, and gently rotated his wrist. The long sword also turned like lightning, emitting a cold light, and went straight to the heart of the opposite burly young man. The burly young man was shocked when he saw the other side easily dodge his palm, and then he saw the other side stabbed out such a sharp sword, so he did not dare to neglect it. He quickly took a step to the right, and at the same time his body also leaned to the right. He wanted to dodge the sword stabbing at his heart first, and then slap his head with a palm after the other side got close. Although the idea was good, the young man on the other side seemed to have expected it. He flashed and appeared in front of him like a ghost. In the end, he still couldn't dodge the sword, and the tip of the sword stopped at his heart. I only heard the young man on the opposite side smiled and said, "Xiao Fei, you lost again." The burly young man shrugged his head, sat down on the ground dejectedly, and then said frustratedly, "Brother Xiaofan, I can't beat you now. 2 years ago, you were not my opponent. Now I can't even take 10 of your moves. I didn't expect you to improve so much. I haven't beaten you once in the past 2 years. Of course, these 2 people are Wu Fan and Song Fei. 4 years have passed, and they have changed a lot. They are no longer children. Since Wu Fan practiced the 2nd level of the fire-burning technique, he has undergone earth-shaking changes. Whether it is reaction speed or strength, there are obvious changes. Even hearing and vision are much better than before. Wu Fan walked over and stretched out his hand to pull Song Fei up, smiling and said, "Okay, don't be upset. Have you forgotten how you beat me before?" Song Fei patted the dust on his body, then gritted his teeth and said, "Just wait, Brother Xiaofan, I will surpass you. I can't always be bullied by you like this." After saying that, he raised his leg and kicked Wu Fan in the butt. Wu Fan didn't hide either. After being kicked by Song Fei, he pretended to be injured and fell to the ground. Then he pointed at Song Fei and complained, "Look, you beat me, oh, my butt." Song Fei glared at Wu Fan and laughed and pulled Wu Fan up. Then the 2 walked towards the house with their arms around each other. Chapter 8 Grade. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In Wu Fan's house, the two of them sat opposite each other at the table. Wu Fan put his long sword on the table and said, "Xiao Fei, Master said that in a few days, we will follow the herb collection team into the mountains to collect herbs. How are the preparations going?" Song Fei picked up the kettle on the table and poured himself a glass of water. After he finished the water, he replied excitedly, "There is nothing to prepare. I have prepared all the medicines I should bring. I will be there when we set off. Just prepare some food." Wu Fan also drank a glass of water and then said, "Bring more healing medicine and detoxification pills. It is said that there are many venomous snakes and beasts in the mountains." Song Fei nodded and said with a smile, "Brother Xiao Fan, the master said that it will take about half a month for us to go up the mountain to collect herbs. I am really excited to think about it. After so many years, we can finally go out. Yes, the master has long said that as long as we reach the age of 16, we will have to work for the drugstore. We are considered to be apprentices. The master has nothing to teach us. In the future, we can only rely on ourselves to slowly explore and accumulate experience." Wu Fan also replied with some excitement. "Brother Xiaofan, I heard from Brother Zhang in the medicine shop that for those of us who go to the mountains to collect herbs, no matter how many herbs each person picks, when we come back, the medicine shop will give us 20% of the market price, and the medicine shop will charge 80%. Brother Zhang said, we can earn at least 5 taels of silver once we go up the mountain. If we are lucky and encounter rare herbs and old herbs, we will make a lot of money," Seinfeld said happily. "Yes, although we have had enough food and clothing over the years, this is the first time we have earned taels of silver. When we have money in the future, we can buy whatever we want. I want to earn more taels of silver in the future. I will buy a small courtyard in Qingshan city in the future, and then I will bring my parents over to live with me, as well as my lovely sister. I wonder what she has become now." Wu Fan also showed excitement in his eyes. Said, "It is said that there are herb collection teams from other pharmacies going up the mountain with us this time, and several of our pharmacies have jointly hired a team of escorts to escort them. It is said that the escort team is led by a top-notch expert, and there are 3 others under it. There are 2 second-rate experts and more than 20 third-rate experts to protect our safety," Song Fei said with a smile. Wu Fan knows that in the martial arts world, warriors are divided into several levels, and the most powerful ones are of course the top masters. It is said that the leader of the Yao Gang is a top master, which is equivalent to a godlike existence, and the entire Yao Gang is like this for a top expert. You must know that the power of the medicine gang covers the entire Qingzhou. Almost all the big cities in Qingzhou have the business of the medicine gang. Even within a few thousand miles of more than 10 big cities near Qingshan city, they are also first-rate gangs. There are not many gangs who dare to compete with the Yao Gang. The reason is because there is such a top master in the Yao Gang. Below the top masters are the first-class masters. The first-class masters are also people who can tremble when they stomp their feet. They are usually the pillars of small and medium-sized gangs, and they are usually invisible. Next to the first-class masters are the quasi-first-class masters. It is said that there is a quasi-first-class master who led the team this time. He is also quite powerful. Such masters are generally not available. Wu Fan's master Lu Lao is also a master. A quasi-first-class master, but he couldn't go into the mountains because he had to stay at the medicine shop and couldn't leave. In fact, Wu Fan had never seen his master take action. Next to the nearly first-rate masters are the second-rate masters. When Mr. Lu took Wu Fan and Song Fei to the Tibetan scripture pavilion to select exercises a few years ago, the old man guarding the pavilion he saw was a second-rate master. Second-rate masters usually can still do it by spending a few silver taels. Those who are hired are said to be worth 20 or 30 taels of silver for a mission, which is equivalent to the entire expenses of an ordinary family in the city for a year. Below the second-rate masters are the third-rate masters, and Seinfeld will now be able to reach the third-rate masters. As for Wu Fan himself, he currently doesn't know what level he belongs to, because the skills he practices are quite special. Ever since he was promoted to the second level, he can no longer tell how strong he is now. He only knows that he just and the strength Song Fei showed during the competition was less than 20% of his total strength. The strength Wu Fan usually showed in front of his master was about 20%. According to Wu Fan's own speculation, he should now be a quasi-first-class master. He is even a first-rate master. After the two chatted for a while, Seinfeld got up and went back to his room to sleep. After Song Fei left, Wu Fan sat cross-legged on the bed, placing his hands on the knees of his legs. At this time, he entered into breathing practice again. Since Wu Fan practiced to the second level, he found that no matter how tired he was that day, he can recover as long as he practices for a few hours, and he no longer needs to sleep. He only needs to sit cross-legged and meditate every day. It is really amazing. The next day, near noon, Wu Fan finished his training. He slowly opened his eyes, his face was a little gloomy, and he was also a little annoyed. He thought to himself, it has been 3 months since I reached the peak of the second level, but I still haven't been able to break through to the second level. I don't know the reason for the third level, but this has never happened before. It seems that blind cultivation cannot help me break through. Wu Fan has not broken through the bottleneck for 3 months, and he does not know what to do next. Wu Fan also asked his master before, but Mr. Lu said that he did not know much about this technique and could not guide Wu Fan. This put Wu Fan at risk. I'm so worried. Will I be stuck on the second floor and unable to break through in the future? There is no other way. Wu Fan can only put this matter aside for the time being. He is now busy preparing some items to bring into the mountains. First of all, he needs to prepare more healing medicines and antidotes. There are many poisonous insects and beasts in the mountains. It is definitely better to bring more medicines. These medicines are easy to deal with. Wu Fan has been learning from Mr. Lu for so many years, and it is still easy for him to practice some medicines. The long sword that Wu Hao gave him must also be brought. There are many wild beasts in the mountains. It is said that some beasts cannot be beaten even by quasi-first-class masters. If he is unlucky, he may encounter robbers. Although he has hired an escort agency, he still needs to carry a long sword for self-defense for safety. Secondly, he needs to bring some gauze for bandaging injuries. Ropes are also necessary, because sometimes when picking herbs, they will go to some cliffs to pick them. Ropes are indispensable. He also needs to carry a bamboo basket, a shovel, a flint, a kettle, and some dry food. If there is not enough food, he can hunt some game. There are still many pheasants and rabbits in the mountains. After Wu Fan had prepared everything he needed, he waited to follow the herb-collecting team into the mountains. Chapter 9 Preparing to Enter the Mountains. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 days later, in the early morning, in the living room of a room, a fat old man wearing a grey robe sat at the head of the table. Next to him stood 2 young men, both wearing blue robes and carrying bamboo baskets behind them. The 2 young men were listening intently to what the old man was explaining. These 3 are of course Wu Fan, Song Fei, and their master Lu Lao. Just listen to Mr. Lu say, you 2 are following the herb collection team into the mountains this time. It is also a kind of training for you. After entering the mountains, you must remain alert at all times. There are many ferocious beasts in the mountains, and some ferocious beasts are even accurate. Top-notch experts will get a headache if they see this, so for your own safety, you must not stray too far away from the herb collection team. Wu and Song faced Mr. Lu, bowed with their hands clasped in fists, and said respectfully, disciples, please remember Master's teachings. Mr. Lu looked at his 2 apprentices with a slight smile on his face. Mr. Lu has paid a lot for them over the years. As a master, he is very qualified and he has taught all his skills to them. Maybe it was because he was older, or because he had no children in his life, so he treated his 2 disciples as his own. The old man picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip, looked at the 2 of them and continued, you may have heard that this time, the escort agency jointly hired by several drugstores was led by a quasi-first-class expert. As long as you don't stay too far away from him, he will ensure your safety. This quasi-first-class master is actually a good friend of my teacher. I and another medicine shop owner went to beg him to come out. Mr. Lu said and looked again. The two apprentices glanced at each other. After hearing this, Wu Fan and Song Fei's expressions changed at the same time, and they thought to themselves, it turns out that this quasi-first-class master was begged by master for their safety. Thinking of this, both of them looked grateful. This time Bai Yao Zhai, like our Huichun Hall, sent more than 20 people into the mountain. Other small and medium-sized medicine shops sent more than 10 people into the mountain. Some only had a few people, and some only had more than a dozen people. Bai Yao Zhai will be followed by a girl this time. This girl is actually the direct bloodline of the shopkeeper of Bai Yao Zhai. Bai Yao Zhai is as powerful as our Huichun Hall, so you try not to antagonize them. You two understand. Wu Fan and Song Fei immediately nodded and replied, disciple understands. A smile appeared on Mr. Lu's face, and then he said, as you all know, every medicine shop is composed of 3 systems, namely, collecting medicine, practicing medicine, and selling medicine. As for practicing medicine and selling medicine, compared with collecting herbs, the work of medicine is definitely much safer and more stable. They don't have to worry about attacks by poisonous insects and wild beasts. However, they hardly have any holidays, and they earn relatively little money. They can only collect herbs, although you are taking risks, but you will have a month's holiday after each mission, and as long as you pick enough herbs, you will earn money that no one else can envy. So since I decided to accept you as my disciple, I also after teaching you martial arts, I can only send you to the herb collection team. Only by experiencing some risks will you grow faster and hope to become a top master in the future. Wu Fan and Song Fei still understand what the master said. It is difficult for a warrior to improve his martial arts without experiencing some life-and-death battles and taking some risks. After the old man finished speaking, he stood up directly, walked to Wu Fan and Song Fei, and then walked out without stopping. At the same time, he said, come with me, the time is almost up, let's set off to meet at the escort bureau. Okay. Wu and Song quickly said yes and followed the master out. In the courtyard of the drugstore, there were about 20 big men chatting with each other, and a few laughs could be heard from time to time. A big man about 40 years old with a full beard said with a smile, brothers, this time when we go into the mountains, we don't want to let the people from Bai Yao Zhai compete with us. We still have to cooperate with each other as before, and we must return with a full load. When we get the reward, I suggest that we all go to Baihua Tower to have a good time. The little lady last time was really pretty. As soon as the big man finished speaking, everyone else burst into laughter. Among them was a tall and thin man in his 30s, with a pair of small eyes and a dagger in his hand, and said with a smile, Boss Hu, last time you were here that girl has a lot of money on her, right? I wonder what ability that little girl has that can make you linger like this. As soon as the big man finished speaking, others laughed again. Brother Su, what do you know? You have no idea what that little lady is capable of. Hee, you will know when you go find her once you have the chance. The big man named Boss Hu replied with a smile. He didn't feel that at all. Awkward, at this moment, an old man and 2 young men came over from a distance. When everyone saw it, they quickly stood up and greeted him. The leader named Hu Boss bowed to the old man and said at the same time, Mr. Lu. Others immediately saluted Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu raised his right hand and said at the same time, everyone, get up. Are you all ready? Everyone responded in unison, ready. Okay, then let's set off. I hope you all come back with a full load this time. After speaking, Mr. Lu turned around and walked out. Everyone quickly followed suit. On the way to the escort office, the group of people kept chatting and laughing, only to hear Boss Hu say, Xiaofei, it's your first time going into the mountains, are you scared? Boss whose name is Hudakue. Even though he is a tall guy who always likes to joke around, people who know how powerful he is don't dare to underestimate him. He is a genuine second-rate master. Boss Hu looks at Wu Fan, Song Fei, etc. Growing up, he always treated the two of them as nephews, Wu Fan and Song Fei walked up to Boss Hu, one on the left and the other on the right, and pulled his arm. Wu Fan looked at Boss Hu and laughed and said, "Uncle Hu, I'm not afraid. I can't wait to go into the mountain." "Yeah." Song Fei next to him nodded again and again. At this time, the big man who was called Brother Su by Boss Hu came over and said, Xiaofei, this time we are going to the Yendang Mountains. Because this time there is a quasi-first-class master following us, so we are going there this time. It's not the small mountain ranges we often visited before. It is said that the Yendang Mountains are very dangerous and few people dare to enter them. This time we can only look for medicinal herbs in the periphery, but even in the periphery, it is not ordinary. The mountains are comparable, so finding herbs will definitely be easy. This Brother Su's name is Su Kuan, and he is also a first-time second-rate master. Wu and Song are usually very close to him. Su Kuan touched Wu Fan's head and continued, "This time you two are mainly out for training. Don't act impulsively, and don't stay too far away from us. Remember." That Wu Fan and Song Fei nodded in agreement. Chapter 10 Entering the Mountain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the entrance of a mansion that covers an area of dozens of acres, nearly 100 people were standing in darkness. The Black Wolf Escort Bureau was also a well-known force near Qingshan city. It was said that there were two quasi-first-class masters in the agency. The quasi-first-class master who led the team this time is named Gao Qingbin. He is about 50 years old and not tall, about 1.7 meters tall. Despite his short stature, he is also a famous presence in the world. It is said that his sword-fa Russian, a quasi-first-class master once came to him for a spar, but he was defeated after less than 20 rounds with his sword skills. Even though they are both quasi-first-class masters, there will still be differences between them. Even if their internal strength is cultivated, they are almost the same, but there are also big differences in martial arts moves. Among the crowd of nearly 100 people, there were 6 or 7 teams, of which 2 teams had the largest number of people. One of the teams was wearing black uniforms with a wolf head printed on the chest. Everyone looked very mighty and fierce. And they all hold standard long knives in their hands. The person standing at the front is short, about 50 years old, with a beard and a majestic appearance. He gives people a sense of oppression when he stands there. He is Gao Qingbin, a quasi-first-class master of the Black Wolf Escort Agency. The other group of people all wore white robes with the words "Bai is High" printed on the cuffs. Standing at the front was an old man. He was about 60 years old, with gray hair and a kind face. Of course, this old man he is the shopkeeper of Bai is High, Meng Hatang. People who know him call him Mr. Meng. He is also a near first-class master. There were 2 girls standing next to Mr. Meng, both about 16 or 17 years old. One of the girls was holding the old man's arm. It was obvious that she was very attached to the old man. The old man also looked at her with doting eyes from time to time. The girl is the old man's granddaughter Meng Tsaidi. She is also the woman mentioned by Master Wu Fan. Although Meng Tsaidi is not old, she is a rare beauty. Her long black hair is covered by a butterfly-style hair. She was tied up with a belt, and her white jade-like little face was inlaid with a pair of beautiful eyes like autumn water, like a pool of clear water. She was wearing a white gauze skirt. Her glance and smile showed the innocence and cuteness of the girl. At this time, she was following what was the girl beside me saying, "Xiao Ru, why haven't the people from Huichan Hall arrived yet? We have been waiting for almost half an hour. We are really anxious." Meng Tsaidi asked impatiently to the girl beside her. The girl raised her head and glanced at the sky, then turned back to Meng Tsaidi and said, "Miss, the people from the Huichan Hall should be arriving soon. The time agreed upon is this hour." Just as he was talking, he saw a group of people walking towards the end of the street. They were all wearing uniform blue gowns, with the words Huichan Hall printed on the cuffs. Seeing that the people from Huichan Hall had finally arrived, the nearly 100 people all turned to look at them. "Lu Tianhua, you're finally here. You're too late." Gao Qingbin from the Black Wolf Escort Agency laughed loudly and looked at Mr. Lu and shouted, Brother Gao, I'm sorry. I explained it to my disciple before, which was a bit of a waste of time. Mr. Lu replied with the same laugh. At this time, Mr. Meng also said with a smile, we have only arrived a while ago, and Mr. Lu is not too late. I didn't expect Mr. Meng to come here this time. Mr. Lu turned to look at Meng Hatong and smiled. Hey, isn't this my Tsaidi crying and shouting to go into the mountain? My old guy's words are useless now. No matter how I try to persuade her, she won't listen. What can you say about a little girl joining in the fun? There's nothing you can do about it. I can only come here to see this girl off. Mr. Meng looked back at Meng Tsaidi, and then said with a wry smile. Okay, you two can chat on the way back. We're about to leave now. Go back when it's time. Gao Qingbin said with a smile, pretending to be impatient. Okay, then I will go back. These two are my disciples. It is also their first time to go to the mountain. This time I will trouble you, Brother Gao. Mr. Lu smiled and said to Wu Fan, and Song Fei pulled him to his side, then looked at Gao Qingbin and said. Don't worry, Brother Lu. Although the Yendang Mountains are dangerous, as long as they don't run around, I will try my best to protect them. Gao Qingbin replied. After finishing speaking, Gao Qingbin shouted let's go without waiting for Mr. Lu's reply. Then he turned around and walked towards the front of the large army, followed closely by more than 100 people in the dark crowd behind him. Master, we are leaving, you should go back too. Wu Fan looked at Mr. Lu and said. Go and be safe. Mr. Lu touched the shoulders of Wu Fan and Song Fei. After speaking, he looked at the two of them again as if they were a little worried, and then turned around and walked towards the pharmacy. The Yendang Mountains are about 100 miles away from Qingshan city. Just as the sun was about to set, dozens of convoys came from the foot of the mountain. The people in these convoys were, of course, Wu Fan and his herb collection team. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, Gao Qingbin asked everyone to camp at the foot of the mountain for one night and then enter the mountain early tomorrow morning. Wu Fan looked at the tall mountains in the distance, stared at the towering trees, and the dense forest. Listening to the roars of beasts and the cries of birds from time to time, Wu Fan felt a sense of depression in his heart. At this time, Hu Dakue and Su Kun came over and saw Wu Fan staring intently at the mountains. They knew that Wu Fan was somewhat curious and shocked when he saw this scene for the first time. They thought that it was the first time they saw this primitive mountain range where wild beasts roamed. They always have this expression. Xiaofan, Xiaofei, go to sleep quickly and get enough energy to go into the mountains tomorrow. Hu Dakue came to the two of them and said with a smile. Yes, don't look at it. You will see it when we enter the mountain tomorrow. Su Kun also said. I know, Wu Fan and Song Fei replied in embarrassment. After saying that, they quickly got into the car and went to sleep. Early the next morning, at the foot of the Yendang Mountains, Gao Qingbin looked around at the hundreds of people standing below, and then shouted, there are many poisonous insects and beasts in the mountains. You are only allowed to move around the outside of the mountains this time, and you must not go deep into the mountains. Go, there are some powerful beasts deep in the mountains. Even if I see them, I can only run away. Although you need to search separately when you go into the mountains to search for herbs, you are not allowed to be too far apart. If you encounter danger, you must shout for help. Our escort agency, the people who hear it will rush there immediately. The second thing is that everyone must return here before the sun sets. They are not allowed to spend the night in the mountains. Okay, that's all I have to say, let's go. As soon as Gao Qingbin finished speaking, more than 100 people dispersed with shouts and rushed up the mountain. Hu Dakue looked at the 20 or so people behind him and said, let's set off too, remember not to go too far and don't go deep into the mountains. Then he led everyone towards the mountains.